have to edit a little bit. That's what the French call it.
So, I'm in Paris, in a beautiful loft, with some of my favorite people. Ulrike Granögger, we just came from Chartres where we had a fabulous workshop. And Nina Heyn, your culture scout, who I want to thank for making the arrangements for us to see Leonardo da Vinci. I didn't even know there was a big da Vinci exhibit in Paris.
Well, it's an exhibition of lifetime, so it's a must.
So you gathered us here into the Louvre with possibly 5 million other people this morning.
That's how it feels, at least.
Anyway, so we went to see the Da Vinci, and then we saw the virtual reality, which we can talk about, and then we went to see the Mona Lisa. So tell us about the exhibit, Nina.
Well, from the get-go, I wouldn't use an expression, we went to see the Mona Lisa, because seeing is not exactly what happens there. There's so many people crowding, jostling, pushing, desperately trying to get a glimpse of that painting that is not physically that big, that seeing is really not the experience that you have. You have an experience of walking into this huge room and trying to kind of see over the heads of other people a glimpse of a beautiful painting that is so far away that you don't really see
No, but we
much.
got up close on the side.
But
and Ulrike got right. She stood in the queue and got right in front.
Right.
For the Mona Lisa?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what I find is that despite the many people, especially with the exhibition, I felt very strongly that as Rudolf Steiner says, that the original painting always has a special energy because it has its Bildekräfte, it has its special power of forces of creation that is still vibrating from there, and you get this.
Yeah.
It's for sure.
Yeah, I got that in the Da Vinci.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much with the Mona Lisa.
Me too, yeah.
But the ones I'd never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about the exhibit.
Well, the beauty of this exhibition is that it does bring in the treasures of the Louvre that are there all the time and quite well known, which is the 5 paintings that are already at the Louvre. The Mona Lisa is the main one there, but there is also a painting that is called the Madonna on the Rocks, which is one of the most beautiful paintings ever made. There's 2 versions. One is in London and it stays in London, and the other one is at the Louvre. The other painting that is in the Louvre and that was at this exhibition is a painting called La Belle Ferronnière, which is a beautiful female portrait. The only other one that is as beautiful is the Dame with Ermine that is at the Krakow National Museum in Poland. And the 3 other paintings that are at the Louvre is one of the versions of John the Baptist. And there is, I think, a couple more that I forgot at this moment, but they are also at the display. But these are the ones that are at the Louvre all the time. What they have managed to bring in is some finest examples of Da Vinci drawings from 2 fantastic sources. One is the Queen Elizabeth II's collection at the Windsor Castle, which normally doesn't travel, and even there it's not always on display. There's some wonderful drawings and sketches. And the other source is Pinacoteca Ambrosiana in Milano, where there are some scientific notebooks, also very beautiful drawings that usually do not travel. So that is something that was worth seeing. There is a great jewel of paintings, which is a painting of Madonna that normally resides at the Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg.
So the Hermitage...
Right. The Hermitage has 2 Da Vinci paintings. It's one of them, and I would say that the nicer one, and it's very beautiful. It's not very big, but it's really beautiful with great composition. Is the Madonna holding a flower. And it doesn't normally travel, and how many of us go to St. Petersburg every weekend? So this is something that is really, if you don't see it in Paris or the Louvre, you know, how you ever see that painting. The other painting, the other work of art that came in is the so-called Burlington cartoon, which came from London, from England, which is at the National Gallery. That is also something that doesn't really travel. There is also, there are two paintings that normally we would not be able to see, and this is something that this exhibition is trying to bring in, even if it's not exactly in the original version. One is the painting of Venus with Leda, and this is the painting that actually has been lost. The original painting by Da Vinci is
the one with lost. The swan.
The one with the Leda with the swan. It's a copy, obviously, of that painting, but it's a beautiful copy, and there are some sketches by Da Vinci around it, so you can see what he was planning. The actual painting has been created, but it has been lost. So this is the way to show everybody what that painting would have looked like. The other one is the Salvator Mundi, the actual painting that is considered to be Da Vinci painting, has been sold at an auction at Christie's in about a year ago for the record amount of $450 million to an then unknown buyer, which and the painting has ostensibly ended up at the Louvre, Abu Dhabi. However, it has only been there for a very short period of time, and now it is in undisclosed location, most likely at some safe in Switzerland. And therefore, we cannot see it at that exhibition. There is a copy or another version of that painting that is displayed at the exhibition. At least gives us an idea what this painting could have been. There are discussions whether Da Vinci has ever even created that painting entirely, or is it one of those paintings that he has kind of started but never really completed. None of his paintings really were 100% completed, but. Right. This is as good as it gets in terms of seeing various examples of what he has created that either has been lost or is inaccessible or not possible. So from that point of view, you have a kind of a comprehensive panorama of things that were of interest to him, things that he has created both in paintings and in technical or scientific research, and various periods of his life and his travels, because he was a very well-traveled person, so he's covered a lot of things.
And the Vitruvian Man is there.
Yes, it's also one of those that normally don't travel, as far as I know.
Exactly.
Where is it normally?
Italy.
Either at the Venice Accademia.
It is in Venice, excuse me. Yeah, it is
I
Venice.
think that's where it is. All I'm saying is that normally these are kind of jewels of various collections of various European museums, and therefore they do not travel. So,
according to the Louvre, they've been working for 7 years to bring these together.
You can see
I can't imagine the politics.
And Nina, while we were there, you also told us that the supper, the cena, is also a copy of the original, and that is here on display, and you can see certain details that are no longer in the original. And you can now see from that copy how it would have looked. And
well, when you look at the original in at Santa Maria della Grazia in Milano, in Italy.
So just for the listener, we're talking about the Last Supper.
The Last Supper,
right?
The original fresco is so damaged that you can barely. I mean, you can see quite a lot, but you know the colors are faded, and a lot of details are lost. Not to mention the fact that part of that fresco is completely destroyed because since
the monks put a door through it.
Yes, the monks put a door through it because they wanted to get their food faster from the kitchen. So they decided that they're just going to cut out a part of the wall so that there would be a passage. The fact that they cut it through the feet of Jesus Christ somehow did not make any religious difference to them. So the fresco is not in the greatest state. That copy has actually been created during Da Vinci's lifetime, when the fresco was in a very good shape. Therefore, the colors that are there are presumably quite close to the original. So to see that painting that normally does not reside here, I think this one is in Italy at the Uffizi, but I'm not gonna stake my head on it. In other words, it's not normally available as well. Actually, I think this is... No, it does belong to the Louvre, but it's just in a different city than Paris. That's what it is. So I take it back. But in any case, it is not normally not displayed, and it's a wonderful way to actually see what Da Vinci has intended.
Right.
The colors, the details.
Yeah, it's so much more colorful.
Lost. Yes, it's beautiful.
I would like to also add, I was so struck also by Salvator Mundi, because I never saw the original one. There were some friends of mine who saw the original at Christie's when it was briefly on display, and were very, very, very impressed. Made high-resolution photos. And the one that is here doesn't come close to that one that was sold for 450 million. But at least it gives you an idea. And I feel that for some reason, I feel that Leonardo had this very special relationship to the Christ. You can see it also in one of the statues that were there. It's a statue of the risen Christ with a doubting Thomas putting his hand into his wound in the side. And the face expression of both of them, especially of the Christ, is very powerful. So I feel there is a direct familiarity almost that he must have shared with the Christ figure. I appreciate that, seeing that.
So what about the virtual reality? What did you think of that?
I think it's fun, and I think it's a very good idea to talk about the Mona Lisa
We
painting.
should explain what it was.
Yes, okay. It is a kind of 15-minute virtual reality show, if you like, where you are shown the person of Mona Lisa who is posing as if she was posing for the portrait. She's placed on a terrace of an Italian Renaissance villa, if you like. So when you look at it, you are looking at the Mona Lisa as a person, a young woman who is breathing, who is blinking her eyes, who is making various gestures, as if she was sitting in front of you and posing for the painting, and she's sitting on the terrace in the landscape that was painted by Da Vinci in various paintings of his. What happens is that at some point his flying contraptions, machines, if you like, appear in the sky, and you can just get on one and fly over the landscape. So that's the story that is kind of created for that show. But it is also an opportunity to talk about various details of a Renaissance painting, of how Da Vinci has chosen to paint the Mona Lisa. It kind of draws attention to various features of the painting that normally you would just see as a flat painting. Here as a three-dimensional experience.
He never stopped painting. He still had it with him when he died, and he worked on it for many, many years.
Well, I think a lot of artists are kind of changing and correcting, and are never satisfied with whatever they created.
Can you talk about him being invited by the King of France in the famous stage?
How the Italians lost the Mona Lisa.
Well, that's the funny thing. The Italians have never lost the Mona Lisa because at some point the Mona Lisa painting, as you probably know, has been stolen out of the Louvre by an Italian man who then promptly kept it for about 12 years under his bed. But he was never planning to do anything with this painting in terms of, commercial gain. He stole it because he was upset that a famous Italian painting was residing in France. It was kind of like a patriotic gesture. But unfortunately, he was completely misinformed, because what really happened with this painting is that Da Vinci has painted as a commission for Signora Gioconda to paint his wife, but he has never delivered this painting to his client, and he has been traveling with this painting all his life. towards the end of his life, when he lost the patronage of Lodovico Sforza, because Lodovico Sforza lost both the principality and the power, and finally his life, Da Vinci, after a few tribulations and trying to find a new patron, has been taken under his wing by a French king, François le Premier, Francis I, who has been so impressed with Da Vinci as a person that he basically offered him lodging in a castle in France, saying that he doesn't even want him to deliver anything, unlike the Italian masters or patrons, if you like, of Da Vinci, who have always been demanding some engineering sketches and paintings and setting up balls and whatever other services were required of Da Vinci. The French king has never requested anything. He said all he wanted to do is to be able to come over from time to time and have a nice chat with him about art and science, and spend a few moments in the presence of an incredible mind that Da Vinci had. So much bigger appreciation.
I was very struck by the etching, the Deluge.
Mm-hmm.
That was, there were only 3 things in the French section at the end. One was that wonderful portrait of him, but one was this etching, the Deluge. I know nothing about it, but it was very uncharacteristic of Da Vinci.
Maybe he was just studying storms.
Could have been.
Since
maybe it was
Ulrike has just discovered that we found out somewhere in his scientific research that he was convinced that there is water on the moon, for example.
Yeah, that's true.
In other words,
I did not know that.
He must be one of the first to think that there's water on the moon, that sun reflects in the water on the moon, is actually written on this book or on this page where he describes it. And nowadays, water on Mars, water on the moon is one of the signs for extraterrestrial life. I think it's quite extraordinary.
Prescient.
Yes.
Because before America was discovered.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
so what was your favorite? What did you enjoy the most?
I think I was happy about several things that I have not been able to see. It's the first time that I have seen a sketch of Isabella d'Este. It's a funny story as well from the life of Da Vinci, if you like. She was one of the noble women in the little, I think, Principality of Mantua, and has always wanted to have a portrait by Da Vinci. However, he wasn't very keen on creating that. He was at the time looking to find some patronage because he had to leave Milano, and he was kind of wandering around the countryside, and he couldn't find a proper place to park himself and function. So he has spent a little bit of time at her property, at her court, and she was putting a pressure for him to create a portrait. So he did this beautiful sketch of her, which is displayed at this exhibition, but he never got around to actually painting her, despite there's numerous correspondence there was a Benedictine monk who was he was a go-between between her and Da Vinci, tries to convince him to create the painting. So that's how we know the story. And there's this, it's been going on for months when she was trying to put the pressure on him by cajoling and threatening and this, and he was always trying to kind of deflect everything because he had no interest in painting her. She was clearly not the subject that he was interested in. He was doing some scientific research into war machines or whatever he was doing, but he was not interested in doing this. But he did create this beautiful, beautiful sketch of her, which was kind of like something to put it brutally, to shut her up, to keep her happy. And I have never seen this sketch. It's a very famous sketch, but I have never seen it. It's displayed at this exhibition, so it was a treat to see it.
So what was your favorite?
My favorite probably was the painting with Anna, the mother of Mary, Jesus and the Lamb. This the face of Anna and the colors and the flow of it all. It's just touching. Really, really beautiful.
So I love I go back to what you told me about what Steiner said about when you're with the original, there's a thing that happens. There's a little flying contraption in one of the notebooks in one of the last rooms that we used to use. We had this concept at my last company, Da Vinci's Workshop. Da Vinci's Workshop was a workshop where you invented things and you had to invent the tools to make the things you invented. So that was the concept. And we used that.
Really?
But I've never seen it in person. This is the first time I really... And there's something, you're right, there's something that happens when you see the original. Now, I just have to comment, the Louvre was packed on this was a Monday. And you had to have, we had to reserve tickets. When did we have?
June.
So we
For
reserved
October.
tickets way ahead.
The moment they opened sales.
And now only in January you get the next tickets.
So now if you want to get tickets, you don't get them till January.
Yes.
So it's 4 months ahead. So the exhibit was packed, but the Louvre was absolutely packed. And I don't know, what does that say about culture?
Well, I think I'm very happy to see them packed. I am a little bit wary of the fact that, yes, the Louvre was packed because, this is Da Vinci, this is famous. And it's kind of, we've seen tourist groups there that were clearly not really appreciating any of the art that they were seeing there. They basically needed to kind of check it off that, yes, they have gone to Paris, and yes, they have gone to Louvre, and yes, they have seen Da Vinci. But they really didn't have any understanding or interest in seeing that. It just was something that was on the schedule. You could see that from those groups. But it's still, it's great that they consider it something that is a must. But at the same time, there's a lot of museums all over the world that have equally fantastic treasures or different treasures of painting or sculpture or any kind of art that are completely undiscovered or ignored just because they don't have that kind of reputation and celebrity. And I would always encourage everybody, yes, go to Louvre, because you cannot spend your life without going to the Louvre. But once you have done
I think you need an entire month to see the Louvre.
At least.
It's huge. It's absolutely huge.
And this is what we have experienced today. For example, we have seen several paintings that are kind of next to the Mona Lisa. They are absolutely gorgeous for various reasons. The Titian. There's another one from the School of Da Vinci, for example, that is hanging there. That is completely ignored, even though it's next to the Mona Lisa. Everybody's turning their back on it. It's a gorgeous painting, but, everybody's looking at this one thing. And there is a million wonderful things at the Louvre that you can just spend days and days exploring and comparing and finding something that speaks to your heart and your mind.
Well, I'm very grateful to you for pulling us and gathering us here and getting us to see this, and as we walk through, teaching us everything. It's wonderful to... There's going to museums, and then there's going to museums with Nina.
Well, we go to virtual museums when I write about them, but I would always encourage everybody that the best thing is that pick any museum that kind of looks interesting and then find those things that are good for you, because you do not have to go to the Louvre and see Da Vinci to have exactly the same experience that Ulrike is talking about, just something that speaks to you because of the energy and mind and soul that went into creation of that work of art. And that is something that you experience in front of lots of paintings, sculptures, works of art all over the world. Sometimes you literally just stand in front of it and something speaks to you.
Yes.
And that's what it is.
Yeah. Laura?
Wonderful.
Anything to add?
Thank you so much for taking me along, Nicole and Robert, and it was just a great experience with you.
Yay. Thank you.